lot of senior communities right now are in growth mode. And as they continue to grow and expand, they recognize that they want to keep the autonomy and the culture and the unique boutique approach of each of their individual communities, but they need some structure so that it's not the wild, wild west. How they do that is where we really excel. Hi, it's good to see you.
You too.
How have you been?
Great.
Yeah,
How about you? Busy.
busy, very, very busy.
How are things at Strategic Dining? How are we doing?
We are doing amazing. It's been quite the year and it continues to get better every day. I'm excited that we get to be together today. It's been a while.
Absolutely.
I have some questions.
Fire away.
Some things that we haven't really done a great job of really talking about is that we have this unbelievable, proven group that I don't think everybody really knows the story. So can you talk to us a little bit about how SDS came about and where it came from?
Sure. So SDS was really the byproduct of working in the industry on the operations side. I was at the time working for a large senior living operator, and we grew through acquisition and bought a lot of properties that either were struggling with their dining and hospitality, or they had a full service dining management company in place, or they had used a consultant who was no longer around and weren't doing that well, or weren't, staying true to the consultant's direction and so on. And so after that time period, we just saw that there was such a mixed bag of results and successes and failures, regardless of how they partnered. And then we heard the messaging often, and we see it in the industry today, that we need help.
Yeah.
Right? We need help, and operators would reach out. But they did not necessarily want to give up control of their operation. They weren't really interested in talking to a third-party dining management group, because they wanted that control. They had a vision of what they want to do, and found it difficult to understand how a third-party group could come in and manage their biggest department in terms of expense, and arguably one of the biggest drivers of resident satisfaction,
100%.
and to give that up to someone else. It was, out of a lot of leaders' thought process. And so we were trying to figure out a way to do that, to provide the support, the service, the training, the tools, but in a way that didn't feel like it was losing control for the operator. And that was really the birth. And we noodled on that idea for 2 or 3 years and tried to poke holes in it and say what would work here and what wouldn't. And from that, the foundation of saying, let's develop a tool for self-operating communities, that we can build the support, provide the training, the tools necessary to help them take their game to the next level. And after about 2 or 3 years, it was time to go, and we brought that model into the market. So we are neither the traditional full service dining management company, but we are also very far from being a consultant, because the idea was, of course, we need to assess, help the operators understand where their opportunities were, but then we need to help them get there, not just identify it and, here you go, good luck. Right? How can we bridge that middle ground? And that became the starting element for Strategic.
It's funny because when we talk to clients now, we say, if you've seen SDS support in one community, you've seen it once, because we truly do build it, to your point, as the client needs.
Right.
Right.
And that, I think that's a surprise for most clients, or potential clients, when we're first talking to them. What's the solution, they say? All right, what are you going to bring in? And our answer, of course, inevitably is we don't know at this point.
Right.
You might know what you think you need, but we're going to spend some time and figure out some other opportunities, and then let's blend them, let's work together to then solve and get to your vision of where you want to be and how you want to get there. And I think that makes it a challenge, as nobody knows better than you, for our team,
Sure.
right, in the field. Think about what makes a great SDS operator, a regional director, a vice president of operations. How do you find the best, and what makes them unique as opposed to another company? I mean, for you, what do you look for?
That's a great question. I think what makes us unique is first and foremost because we are helping the dining program, right? But we're ultimately helping the entire community. So the individuals that work within the organization, as you know, you pioneered this. One, they obviously have to be culinary driven because food touches these residents. And it's half of the reason, more than half of the reason that residents choose to move into any given community. But what's the most important about the people who represent our company is that they are true hospitality experts, that they understand what every client truly needs, that they can look into the crystal ball and truly understand how can they best support the executive director? How can they best support the residents? How can they best support the chef? And they curate and create that plan with that team in order to be able to fulfill all of the community's needs. That takes a really unique individual.
Yeah.
It's not a cookie cutter approach, right? They really have to be able to put the puzzle pieces together to create the best outcome.
Right. No, I've seen, a regional in a kitchen training a dishwasher how to prep vegetables because they have an hour of downtime. So how can they be more effective, efficient, and learn some skill sets? Then be out on the floor bussing tables 20 minutes later, and 20 minutes after that, talking to an owner about his $60 million asset and when are we going to get on budget?
Right.
Right. And that's the skill set our operators have to have because, again, to your point, their situations are so unique. They never know what the expectations, demands, or what the goals are going to be with any certain client. And they differ between buildings within the same client portfolio, right?
Mm-hmm.
So different challenges all around.
You mentioned previously that you recognized a need in the marketplace. And then you mentioned, you tested it a bit. We have 13 years of a proven track record, which is pretty amazing. And I'm blessed enough to be a part of it now. What made you decide that it was ready to be released into the marketplace? And can you talk to me a little bit about how we're here today?
Yeah. So I don't know why we knew, that was the time, but we had tried to poke holes in it and we'd asked operators, we'd talked to people in the industry, does this sound like something that would be of value? And so when we launched, I can tell you our biggest surprise was that the first 6 client meetings that we got, potential client meetings that we got, to a person, we walked out of those meetings hearing, this is amazing. This is what we've been looking for. We need help. We are not going to outsource our dining, but how do we get our team to the next level? This is perfect. Can you call us again in the fall and we'll set up a meeting because then we'll do budgeting in February. And so the biggest thing that we learned was that the buying curve was so long.
Sure.
We didn't expect people to take as long, but I think part of that is because the product was new. People had not heard of this sort of support. So they were unsure as well to say, wow, it sounds perfect.
Right.
And then they want to go poke holes in it,
Sure.
right? And figure out what that sounded too good to be true. And how can this essentially too, at the end of the day, be cost neutral? In other words, it costs the client $0 to hire us. And they look at that formula and say,
how is this possible?
Exactly. How do you make money? How do, you can save us money and still provide all of these services, hip to hip training, people on board, menu management, all types of creative solutions for them. And yet it was cost neutral. And I think it sounded too good to be true for a while. And so we had to get those first few customers on board, but that purchasing cycle was much longer than we thought. And we really thought we had made a big mistake 10 months into the launch of the company because we didn't have a client yet. But we had a pipeline full of people talking about us, excited about the opportunity, just waiting to get it through the purchasing cycle. And, different companies react differently too. Some go through a much more laborious process to make their decisions. Others are, the decision maker makes a decision and off we go. So that launch period was interesting, and it was, of course, like any entrepreneurial, it's a risk, right? But the need was there, and our passion to help the industry is what gave us the ability to stick with it. We had just seen enough properties. I mean, we had a sample of 100 communities that we had managed, and I just can tell you, even though we acquired those from other operators, they needed help. And it's interesting, where does your dining service director go to improve their skill sets? Because for most operators, that's the number one man, right? That's the expert on site, on campus. So how do they get better? Your nursing team and other staff, they've required training. They continue to grow and learn as the industry evolves. Well, the industry is evolving, but where do our teams go to get help to keep up with it?
Mm-hmm.
And so now they have a resource. Now you can invest in your own people, so that if we end our relationship with a client, the worst thing that happens is their team is now evolved and they're better off.
And they're better.
Right? They've invested time and energy to bringing up their skill sets and training. And, one of the most powerful things that we bring is just a fresh set of eyes. Look, we're in hundreds of communities, right? Nationally. And so we get to bring the best of the best ideas for solutions for your operation. And that alone is worth the price of admission.
I couldn't agree more. The fact that we've been able to really explode throughout the market in the last year and a half, just by leveraging some of the additional options that we have now, and we've gotten the word out. We've got some really great proven track record. The ability to bring different options to these clients is pretty amazing, right? So it's almost like this a la carte of menus that they can pick from. This is important to me. Training is hyper, focused right now, and then just the industry needs the flexibility. I think we're learning that a lot right now, right? But that's where I see a lot of where we're going, is the fact that we have this beautiful menu of services that clients can pick and choose from that help optimize the best solution for their community. And don't get me wrong, some of these are systems, but one community down the road needs something different than the other community.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be one standard approach.
So you see that sort of variation, but there's got to be themes, right? What are the things that you most normally see? Here's where operators really need the help. What have you see out in the marketplace today? And is that any different than 2-3 years ago?
Yes, I would say the biggest things that I think we're seeing right now in the industry for trends is, first, training. Post-COVID, the labor market changed, the skill sets adjusted, and there is a heavy need for integrated training for dining teams, whether it's front of house hospitality training, whether it's actual culinary training. Training has become something that is a hyper focus for many. 2, there's a need for visibility in the numbers. The clients are trying to make smart decisions on how they use their money, and being able to have that transparent visibility on where the bananas go when they come in the back door is become extremely important. So being able to flex and adjust to be able to give that visibility down to the penny live time has been something that's been really well received by our clients. I think third is, to your point, continued development, right? It's outside of just the skill set training, that continued development. Organizations are looking to set themselves above the rest, and in doing that, they want to give their teams They want to keep the culture of their teams, and they want to be able to give their teams the opportunity to really thrive. In doing that, organically, they become the best in class. And so they have created and kept that autonomy of great culture. They've developed their people, and they've been able to leverage others to help them do that as the subject matter experts. Those are three that I think are really, really important right now.
Yeah.
Not to mention the whole conversation around technology, right? Technology has become increasingly important as it relates to senior living, not only to the point of it being just safe, right? You need to make sure that mom and dad are safe, but now there needs to be integration with technology so that the active adult that is moving into communities now has a much better sense of technology than potentially the residents from 10 years ago.
Right. 5 years ago, 3 years ago.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So have you seen, well, the employees for our clients are not our employees, right? They stay with with the communities, but we influence and train and help and you have to work with those teams, right? Have you seen the labor market change? What's your sense out there? Have we recovered from post-pandemic in terms of being able to find good people? Does that remain a struggle for most operators? What's your assessment?
I do think it's changed quite a bit. I mean, there's a lot of factors that play into that. One, obviously, is what is the budget that communities can meet when it pertains to hourly rates of pay. So that in itself is one bucket. I don't think that there's a lack of great people out there. I think that the hospitality industry just needs a little bit more hyper focus. I think our clients are looking for, I mean, let's face it, a lot of people who work in the senior living industry, it's their first job. And so while maybe the labor market hasn't changed in terms of the amount of people, I think one, really promoting that this is an amazing trajectory to a career path is something that's lacking, that, you know, that doesn't entice people to necessarily come and work in the industry. But when they do, and it's their first job in high school or their summer job when they're home for break, they have a different need for that skill set, right? They learn differently now. They don't want to take a 20-week training course. They need the videos for training. They need the on-site kind of quick bites. They need it to be integrated into their onboarding documentation. And so I think that that's really where the shift is that I see. I think that there's a lot of really great people out there. How they learn has changed.
Right. Right. And they're also like our residents. Well, of course, they're beyond our residents, but that their ability to grasp technology. So when we start talking about point of sale systems and menu management systems, and it's not intimidating to our workforce,
Right,
as it was only 10 years ago.
right.
And now the residents are following behind that, starting to see more and more of that.
When we talk about technology integration, what are you hearing in the field? You're out and about at a lot of conferences and still networking with a ton of people. What are you hearing as the biggest need as it relates to the technology in the field right now?
Well, I think you spoke to part of it. It's just clear information, right? It's data collection and being able to see actually what's happening in their communities. I think you have operators who are operating what they would say, we're fine, like, we're making budget, but they don't know why. They don't know how, and they don't know how that they have the opportunity within that budget to enhance what they're doing without changing the budget, because they don't know where that money is moving and how it's working, right? So transparent purchasing, I think, is what everyone wants to see.
When we talk to clients, that's often what I really try to reiterate, is that one of the unique differences about SDS is that we're going to give you that visibility into where every penny is going for you to make the decision of how you want to use that money properly, right? So you may have an employee meal program that is costing you quite a bit of money. And it is not our job to necessarily tell you that that's right or wrong. It's to give you that visibility, offer some solutions and propose suggestions, and then work with you on what's the right outcome to make sure that it makes the most sense.
That's such a great point. And we've had clients who said, oh no, our employees eat free. That's our program. That's our plan. That's a perk. And within a month, we can deep dive in and say, okay, just so you know, your employee food program costs $180,000 a year. And I get this, what?
Yeah.
How'd you get that? Where'd you come up with that? Now, they still may want to proceed,
Correct.
but it's now knowing that those decisions have financial implications. And the reality is many times those funds are tied into the overall expense budget for the community. So if I pull out $200,000 for employee meals, that's a great prerogative. In fact, we generally support that as a great way to as a perk for your team, right? But is it a $200,000
Right.
perk that's showing its value?
Right.
Or if we did it for $100,000 and spent another $100,000 on the residents, would that be where you'd rather go? I don't know the answer to that. Our clients make that decision, but it's up to us to provide that information and intel.
That's right.
And for many of them, it's a wake up call.
I agree.
And I think for us too, we've seen an uptick in as SDS, our ability to provide technology, right? In the last couple of years with our affiliation with Compass Community Living and the resources and the power and the tools now that we have, our model 10 years ago was potent and powerful and was very successful. Now we're armed with the latest and greatest, technology that's available. And I think to our credit within the CCL family is that we keep pushing it. We're the ones who are driving because we are really in the trenches seeing what this can do for our clients. And I think we'll continue to evolve our resources faster than even our sister companies and the industry. And I'm really proud of that fact, seeing that what we've been able to do. And then, of course, with our purchasing partners now are, unbelievable. In the past, we always look out for our clients' best interest in terms of us bringing value to the purchasing solution, right? We need to get you the best pricing, the best products, and the best service. But now with a partner like FoodBuy on our side, that game has changed completely. And as we talked about before, that's one of the tools that continues to allow us to be cost neutral
Right.
for our clients, that there's pure savings sitting there that we can help you manage and come up with great solutions in buying, product availability, and keeping, the client aware of what they're spending it on, right?
I love what you said because I think what's really important, that's why I'm so glad that we're together. The core values of SDS has not changed. The toolkit has just expanded,
Yes.
right? That's something that we both are pretty firm believers in. The integrity of the company is about supporting the communities based off of what they need. We just have a little bit bigger of a toolkit,
Right.
and some added resources now.
So you've heard internally, we call it SDS 2.0,
That's
right?
right.
It's the same model. It's that same sensibility from a hospitality standpoint, but now we have tools that can really ignite the success of our team members. And I think, some of that technology is not only effective in terms of information, but it really helps our clients with their workflow, right? It reduces the amount of time it takes to do an inventory. It reduces the amount of time you spend purchasing and making purchasing decisions. I've been on site before with chefs who are lamenting over, the stuffed shrimp tilapia from Cisco versus the one from US Foods. And this is, 10 cents cheaper. So I'm going to buy this one-off at a distributor we rarely use, and I'm going to save some money. And of course, we look at that as a solution and say, okay, well, why don't we save 70 cents a pound and let's make it in-house?
Right.
Right? Let's get tilapia, let's get shrimp, and let's create a great recipe. But taking that kind of time element out of our people's hands so that they are now in the kitchen and active. They're out on the floor and active. And that's what really good technology can do. It shouldn't bog you down with the, the need to input and to spend time on tracking your technology, that should be done for you. And I think that's the power of an effective system, right? Is to streamline all of that, which really helps the team in the field.
I agree. So we have some cards here
All right.
of questions. The all-knowing, the two of us here together. Do you want to take some turns answering some questions?
Sure. Yeah. As long as I get to ask a couple.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
first.
No, please start.
All right. First question. Why do you think that this model has been so effective?
Well, we talked about this a little bit before, obviously, but I think because it, like any successful product, it fulfills a need, right?
That's right.
I need help. I'm not going to outsource. I don't want consultants. I've tried that before. I think what's made it beyond that successful is that while it sounds like it fills a need, it works.
That's right.
Right. So we have successful clients. And for the last 12 years, we've really built our company on referrals. It's existing clients who tell our story because, again, as we've talked about, it sounds a little too good to be true sometimes, right? But when you have a client who's had a turnaround story or a successful outcome, that tells it all. But it's fulfilling a need.
I agree. Your turn.
All right. I'm going to ask you, what have been the biggest headwinds for you in continuing to build and grow SDS?
That's a great question. I think that there's a few answers to that. First and foremost is the toolkit that we have is ever changing. And every time we meet a new client, we recognize a new need.
Right.
And so I think one of the headwinds that we probably face every day is that we tell our clients that the answer is yes. We can figure it out. We're going to make it better for you. We're going to make it better for you and for your residents. And at times that requires changing the systems a little bit. So I think one of the headwinds is we continue to grow and keep the integrity of what we are doing, which is that we are customizing and creating for every individual community. That does create more work at times, right? Then the dining training might be very specific for one organization, and that front of house training needs to be a little different for another. That does create more work. However, what it also does is create a better outcome because we just learn, right? We continue to evolve and get better. I think another headwind that we're seeing is that the integration of data is so important to our clients. And so what I anticipate there is that just full integration is going to have to become something that everybody manages through.
And what do you mean by that full integration?
Well, it's ultimately what our clients are looking for besides that visibility is for that data to come through into their system. They don't want all of the extra steps of having to take the feed and put it into one place and then enter it somewhere. They just want it all to flow. And that's the case with not just dining, that they want all of the nursing and the facilities and all of that to come through one system, just to make it easier. And a lot of times that's not the case right now. So we've been working really hard on making all of our information integrated. I think the last thing that I'm seeing that's a headwind is that there are a lot more stakeholders now.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot more decision makers. There are a lot more opinions. And so really showcasing that, to your point, is this too good to be true? It's not too good to be true. It is.
Right.
There's just a lot more people to talk to about our model, who really want to make sure that they understand it and truly believe in it.
Right. When you said your toolkit is expanding, what do you mean by toolkit? So what are some of the tools in the kit that you bring to bear right now for clients?
So some of the tools are what you would expect any food service organization to bring to the table, but ours are better because we build them for our clients. We are expanding on training. So now it's not just manuals, it's full manuals with validation tools and videos. It's our whole ecosystem of our menu database that from fruit to nuts starts with a core menu that the communities get to build, and then that flows through from a nutritional accuracy perspective, and then also goes right into a point of sale, also goes into menu boards. I mean, it's a full integration. So that toolkit has really launched and expanded quite a bit in the last year. Besides that, we have an endless amount of support documents when it comes to policies and fun things to do as menu fatigue, stop gaps. And then our skill set of our people just continues to grow as they get more comfortable working with a lot more organizations. We're creating some really cool stuff out there with some of our client groups. So that toolkit, once we learn and try something somewhere, we practice and we pilot it and we say, this worked for this person, maybe it will work for this person. And so that toolkit continues to grow as well.
Yeah. When you hear clients, because I hear this all the time, we need more variety.
Mm-hmm.
Share how SDS adds more variety. Like, what are the tools we bring to solve that? Because that's one of the most common that I hear out in the field.
I think that you would agree that sometimes the solve for variety is really, it's not a blanket statement, right? There's not one solve. We have to be really good listeners. So oftentimes when a client says they're looking for variety, whether it's in menus or, venue options, hours of operate, whatever it might be, they're looking for variety. We have to ask the question of what is it that you're looking for? And so we do that through a pretty disciplined approach. We talk to the residents. Oftentimes somebody says, I need variety, but they don't know what that means.
Right.
And so really understanding what drives the need for variety comes from a lot of different people. So talking to the residents, talking to the dining team, talking to some of the other stakeholders in the community, whatever that variety means, and then coming up with a proposed plan that's very specific to what they might need.
Right.
And sometimes that variety is probably not what they want to hear, because oftentimes when you say, I need variety, you can say, okay, well, here are some options that I think would be best suited for you. This one probably isn't a good idea because we're not there yet.
Right.
Right. But let's work on how we get there.
Yeah, often see operators going beyond their skill sets in terms of trying to provide that next level, right? But their team isn't ready for it yet.
Right.
They can't produce what it is they sense the residents are asking for.
And I would go as far to say that we have now probably less clients say they're looking for a variety, but they're looking for that thing and they don't really know what to call it. And what I've kind of identified is that it's the difference between standards and standardization. They're not looking for standardization. That's why they didn't fully outsource. But they are looking for guardrails. They're looking for standards. They're looking for best practices. And so some of that variety falls into that bucket.
Exactly.
They're really looking for help me be better, but we don't really know what that means.
Flexibility within a framework.
Correct.
I want my people to be creative. I want them to be able to take advantage of situations in marketplace, but within this area, right? Yeah, that's a tough one, right?
A lot of senior communities right now are in growth mode. And as they continue to grow and expand, they recognize that they want to keep the autonomy and the culture and the unique boutique approach of each of their individual communities, but they need some structure so that it's not the wild, wild west. How they do that is where we really excel.
Well, we see operators who think they're on a great path. They're very happy with their dining environment right now, don't really need any help, and then the chef leaves.
Right.
Right?
And then what?
That means you didn't have a good environment because the structure, the core wasn't in place.
Right.
Because while change can be difficult, it shouldn't be devastating. Because then we know the guides aren't there and the team isn't being developed behind those leaders, right? So, all right.
All right, my turn.
Yes.
Okay. What has been the most significant change at SDS over the past 2 years?
Wow. Well, we talked about this a little bit. It is you. it is absolutely Jill bringing us into the 22nd century, right? No, but obviously it's been our partnership with Compass and obviously your addition to the company, which has taken us to a whole new level.
Thank you.
In terms of not only sophistication of our product, but the focus on growth and development of our people, those things that are going to set us up for continued long-term growth. And we always had a model that was scalable. Well, what you've brought to the company is really putting us in a position to continue the growth pattern we've been on with the quality that we demand of ourselves and the outcomes that we expect for our clients. So, I mean, that's been a big change, right? New leadership. We continue exponential growth, and we plan on that happening for a while, right? But I think it's the development and the vision for the future now, and growing that team to be able to execute.
I love that. Very well said. Thank
Thanks. All right. Let's see what we've got
you.
next year.
Top that.
From an operational standpoint, what are the toughest challenges that you're currently facing? What are your headwinds day to day?
STS is a great company to work with to help create the best in class dining experience. What we don't have is the formal authority to demand that with our client organization.
At the community level,
At
you
the
mean?
community
Yeah.
level, right. And so oftentimes we have client organizations that are really looking for something. And by the time you get to the community level, the reality there is very different. That gray area in between is significant. And I do think that that is a challenge right now sometimes. The C-suite is demanding something, right? Whether it's financial expectations, cultural shifts, standards. And then by the time you get to the community level, that's a lot harder to absorb. You know, you mentioned that change is hard, but it shouldn't be devastating. At times, the community reality is very different than the C-suite reality.
Sure.
And so I think that that is a headwind because our support and help is only as good as the team embracing it and trying it. And when they do, we see so many light bulb moments of success where people are really, really thrilled to be proud that they accomplished that. No, we didn't do it for them. We did it with them. We built this with them. But that takes sometimes time. It takes time to really influence that behavior without that formal authority. I think that is definitely one of our headwinds.
What's the one thing, if you could put one thing that our clients do in terms of their behavior or participation that sets us up for success and for them to have the best solutions?
Great communication. Our best relationships are when we are working hip to hip with every layer and every level of our client organization. Those decisions are made together. The communication is a two-way street so that we are both saying the same thing and really creating the right outcome together at every layer.
Right.
I think that's where we see the most success.
Well, I know for the entire life of the company, we've used one word to kind of sum that up, if you will.
Transparency.
Transparency, right? That we want transparency. Everything we do with our clients, we're doing on their behalf.
That's right.
We are their corporate dining team now. We're part of the team. And so everything is transparent, from what the food costs and invoices to the next program we're working on. It takes that partnership, right? And that transparency. And while we value the transparency of what we do, and so we bring that up when we talk to a client or potential client, this is the environment we want to work on or with, but we hear it on the backside when we talk to our clients who are really pleased with what we do. They generally will note that transparency is something they appreciate.
That's right.
Right?
That's
So-
right.
All right.
My turn?
I think so.
Oh, this is a great one for you. Why focus exclusively on self-operated communities Now that you've seen some success with SDS, why stay with self-op?
Right. Well, it's that old question, why rob banks? Right? That's where the money is.
Right.
Right? Why self-op? Because that's where the need is.
That's right.
That's the market that is there. Look, operators who have a need for a full service outcome, there are companies that do that and do it very well.
Agreed.
So what we're trying to do is say that's not us. Here's the need, and also from a business standpoint, quite honestly, that self-out market is bigger
That's right.
than any other market. So
But the need is greater.
the need is greater, the market's bigger, and we've worked for 12 years now to understand and be effective at leading that particular market, right? It's very unique. It is not dining management. And so we've worked so hard to get ourselves in a position in an industry that obviously needs and can benefit from the help. And that is a huge potential for us as a company to continue to grow. And the second point of that is that this is an area that will continue to evolve and have needs because expectations are changing. When we think of the distance between expectations of senior living 10 years ago, even 5 years ago in certain markets, and you would say, how was your dining experience? And if the answer was, pretty good for senior living community, right? You would be pleased with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's no longer an acceptable outcome today. Our clients are residents of our clients are comparing us to restaurants.
That's right.
They dine out 2-3 days a week in an independent environment. And those even in assisted living or other areas of care were recently dining out and enjoy going out. They're more sophisticated buyers and diners. Now, make no mistake about it, people living in a community still appreciate and want folksy, homey food. We all don't eat out at a restaurant every night of the week, nor do we want to. So they want that comfort food piece of what we do, but the expectation is that it's executed at a high level. Of course, we're going to use fresh product. Of course, we're going to handle it properly. We're going to serve hot food hot, but now we need to go to the next level and say, wow, that was different. That's extraordinary. Or I've never had that before. And, trying to solve that dynamic where many of your residents do only want comfort food, and other residents, and particularly potential residents looking to move into community, want something a little more special than that.
I agree.
They're looking for innovation. They're looking for creative dining because that's what they're used to.
That's right.
And so for our clients to help them bridge that and say, we can still offer comfort food, but then we also have to have that wow factor built into the menu to create that sense of creativity and growth. And I'm going to see something that I haven't seen. And I think that's back to your point in terms of attracting talent now in our industry, right? We've evolved to a point where we really are doing things in a way that can attract hospitality talent, whether it's front of the house or management or culinary. Listen, it's not sexy to graduate from culinary school and say, I want to work in senior living, right? It just doesn't happen. But as a byproduct of a culinarian working in restaurant, hotels, or country clubs, and after 8-10 years of burnout and high pressure, come into a community where they make a difference, where they get to work with the best products that they want to buy. They have range for creativity and development of menus, and they make a difference in people's lives.
Agreed.
It's one thing to get a 3-star review or a mention in the newspaper. There's another thing for a family member to come up and tell you that you saved their mom's life. When she moved in, she was not doing well and she was losing weight, and she is vibrant today. That's a game changer, and that's a message we've got to get out and help our clients get out to find those folks.
The expectations continue to go up. So leveraging the folks that come from that world, you're right. Better menus, better service, better hospitality. It's evolving.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sure you've been in kitchens where, they're opening boxes and putting mixes together and using a lot of pre-made food. And they always say to me, well, but we don't have the staff. We don't have the talent to go beyond that. Well, that's a self-serving cycle. The problem is you can't attract people who really want to cook and be culinarians if those are the products you're using.
That's right.
Right? So you tend to get people who will take a job because they're more than happy to open a mix or a pre-made lasagna and throw it in the oven. And so you've got to break that cycle at some point and say, we're going to commit to cook fresh food from scratch. And guess what? You start attracting people who are interested in working in that kind of kitchen or in that form of hospitality. All right. So my turn or yours?
It's your turn.
Okay. So how does SDS approach training differently than, say, a traditional dining management company? What makes what you do day in and day out different?
So we touched on this a little bit, but I think what's important is understanding the true need of what the training is. And then additionally, what is the skill set of the individuals that we are working with, so that we can understand the best way to train them. There is not one single way to train someone on anything. You have to understand if it's a younger generation, like I mentioned, sometimes you need quick bites, videos, snippets, hands-on application. So I think that what's a little bit different about what we do is we really dissect that and understand what the needs of the learning environment are, and then take it from there. Oftentimes we've had clients ask us to build them an entire curriculum around every layer of back of house and front of house employees so that it all aligns with their level of food service expectations. And down to they wanted there to be tests for every single person, and they wanted that validation. And so we built that for them, right? Understanding what their model needed to look like. So I think our training is very hands-on. I think it touches everything. It's very hands-on. You'll always have someone there to support. I think I'm going to go sideways for a second. You know, you mentioned what makes it different from a full service, but I think what makes it different from full service is typically very cookie cutter, right? And what makes it different from consultant is here's what you should do, and then they go away. We're in the middle.
Right.
We take the best of the toolkit. We curate what it needs to look like for you. We identify how to apply it, and then we stay there with you to ensure that it continues to happen.
Right.
Training isn't a one-time thing. And that's where there's a big disconnect often is train my server how to go to a table. Well, let's train the server how to do that, but let's validate and let's help them get better and let's check on them in 30 days. And then what's next, right? For the evolution of that particular server. That's where we're very unique.
And train the trainer too, right? We've got to develop those teams to be self-sufficient.
That's right.
In order to continue to know how to train. And that's a whole different approach, you know, as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is a challenge too. Keeping in mind, they're not our team.
That's right.
Right. So we have to engage them with passion, with outcomes that are clearly visible to them, and have them buy into this opportunity.
That's right.
To be successful. And it's amazing how many times though they get it and move quickly to hang on.
I often say to directors or chefs, how great would it be if when we're finished with this training and at the end of the month, you can walk into your boss's office and deliver the financials and say, you're welcome, right? Because you learned how to do this and you used your team to be able to accomplish it. And, you know, it's all something that you should be proud of.
And we've all heard, I never would have believed, you know, Frank was capable of this, right? But people want to learn. They want to get better.
That's right.
They need the tools and resources and training. And to your point, what we do, you can't phone in.
Right.
Okay. We've got to be on site. We've got to show hip to hip. But then we've got to have that team embrace it and then commit to it.
That's right.
So that they start holding each other accountable to a set of standards and levels that provide excellence and the outcome for the residents.
You just took my question and ran with it. Your answer was better. All right, my turn. We kind of talked about this one already, but maybe you can give me your summarized pitch. What makes SDS stand out from other service providers in the industry?
Yeah. Well, first of all, no one does what we do,
Exactly.
right? So that in and of itself, it's we're unique.
With a
Um,
proven track record of that.
Correct. But we also don't have, huge name recognition yet in an industry because we've worked kind of quietly, if you will, intentionally. And we're a little boutique-y, right? We work with clients and we've built over time. We are not the big splash in the pan because we don't want to be a splash. We want to be a long-term player and a leader in the industry and provide a resource and a solution for clients nationally that continues to grow. And of course, the bigger we get, the more resources we're able to provide to our clients as well. Case in point, the last couple of years of our growth. But I think, again, our model makes us unique, but also the way we go about it. I don't think you will find a collection of your leadership team more passionate about outcomes. People who, when we stumble, and we do, don't sleep all weekend, are kept awake because of not achieving what we knew we were supposed to do and what we're capable of doing. I think that's rare in the industry. In an industry where you say can be a little cookie cutter, ours is so entrepreneurial and so individualistic at the client level that we have to be owners of it every day. And so our leaders tend to be just more passionate. They know the outcome is what they do today.
I'm going to take the second to last question.
All right.
Will senior living be the primary focus for SDS in the future, or do you anticipate broader applications?
Well, I can tell you that for I would have answered this differently maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but for 10 years it was such our focus and our core, and we really didn't want to get distracted, if you will, and really keep our foot on the gas because this is what we know we do well. But with more exposure to the overall, the bigger industry, it's our model that's so effective and can help so many operators. So when we look at opportunities in behavioral health or hospitals or schools, does a model where we are not a third-party group taking over your operation, but giving you the help, I think those industries have evolved too, to where more and more of them are looking to go to a self-operated environment, but don't necessarily have the tools or the confidence or experience to do that. So they're looking for help to either bridge that transition period or to say, no, we'd like that as a long-term solution. It fits. We want the expertise. We need the long-term support, but we want to do it. We want to learn how to do it better ourselves. So I just think there's so much opportunity in those areas that we can't ignore it. We have to take advantage of those opportunities, and our model will really transfer very, very well and provide solutions for operators who have kind of been struggling for a while.
You're right. And we're already starting to talk with some hospital groups and some behavioral health, and I think we will expand for sure.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Okay.
All right. Last question.
Oh boy.
See what it says. It's a two-parter.
Okay.
What does the future look like for SDS? And well, actually, we answered the second part: expansion in other markets. I mean, our markets are national now, so unless there's new news that we're going international. But what does the future look like? What's the big picture?
That's a good goal.
Yes.
What's the 2026? I mean, I would love your lens on this as well, but for me, what's next for SDS and what's the future holds, I think our continuing growth is obviously really important, but I think it's also important because it's needed, like you mentioned. I think the more that we are able to educate prospective client organizations that we have a really great thing available, will only help that growth continue its trajectory, which is also already really quick. I want SDS to continue, like I mentioned, to keep the integrity of all of the wonderful things that you've built. So the culture and those core values of really helping make communities better is number one. And then the tools and the resources, that's the other expansion, is that we have more options, better options, more flexibility, more tools, so that as we grow and we find out more needs, that we have an answer and a solution for everyone.
Awesome. Well, I think that can take us into the next 10 years,
That's
right?
right. That's
Awesome.
right.
Thanks.
It was really good to see you, David.
You too. Always.
Don't be a stranger.
Okay.
See you soon.